Welcome to Unveiled Mysteries, where every story hides a secret.
For more than 40 years, one murder hunted a detective. It was a case that never left his mind. A crime scene he could still see clearly decades later. A mystery that became, in his own words, a thorn in my side. Ladies and gentlemen, the murder of Carol Morgan. It was the evening of August 13th, 1981. Detective Superintendent Brian Prickett walked into a small convenience store on a quiet council estate in Linslade, near Leighton Buzzard in Bedfordshire. Inside the store's back room, he found a scene he would never forget. Carol Morgan, just 36 years old, lay dead in the storeroom. The attack was savage. Later, Prickett would describe it as the worst attack I've ever seen on a human being. Even after 40 years, the memory remained vivid. It's as clear in my mind now as it was back then, he said. From the moment police saw the body, it was obvious this was not an accident. It was not a burglary gone wrong. This was a deliberate and violent murder. That same night, Carol's husband, Alan Morgan, called the police. He claimed he had returned home from a trip to the cinema with his 2 children and discovered his wife's body in the shop. To outsiders, it sounded like a tragic coincidence, but investigators quickly became suspicious. Prosecutors would later argue that the cinema trip was not innocent at all. They said it was a carefully planned alibi, a cast iron excuse to prove he could not have been present when Carol was killed. According to the prosecution, Alan Morgan had paid a hitman to murder his wife and stage the killing to look like a robbery. From the beginning, Morgan became the main person of interest. Detective Prickett noticed something unsettling. Morgan did not behave like a grieving husband. There was no visible shock, no grief, no fear at all. Instead, he appeared cold and detached. Officers soon uncovered troubling details about his character. He was described as arrogant, bossy, and a womanizer. Prickett said, unquote, he showed none of the concern you would expect from a man whose wife had just been brutally murdered. Witnesses also came forward with disturbing observations. One person reported seeing a man leaving the shop carrying a bag before getting into an estate car. Police searched for this mysterious figure, but as weeks turned into months, circumstantial evidence kept pointing back to Alan Morgan himself. The shop was struggling financially, his marriage was failing, he had spoken openly about not wanting to continue the relationship. He had indicated he wasn't going to make a go of his marriage, Prickett later recalled. Yet, despite all this, police did not arrest him. Yes, I guess you are wondering why. Why? That was the same question I asked myself. This was because they knew their evidence was not strong enough to arrest Allen. Detective Prickett made a strategic decision. He believed that if Morgan were arrested too early, he would simply deny everything and shut down communication. I took the view that if we arrested him and put the circumstantial evidence to him, Prickett said, he would have said, "You know I couldn't have committed the murder. Prove it." And then the trial would go cold forever. Instead, they allowed Morgan to remain free. They encouraged him to give interviews to the press. The hope was that one day he would slip up, reveal something he shouldn't, but he never did. Years passed. The case went cold. CarolMorgan's murder became one of Britain's unsolved crimes. Decades later, in 2018, a cold case review team reopened the investigation. With fresh eyes, they re-examined old witness statements. And that's when they returned to a woman named Jane Banton. At the time of the murder, she had been only 17 years old. She had once visited the Dolphin pub in Leighton Buzzard and encountered Allen Morgan there. What she told the police would change everything. Jane testified that Morgan asked her a chilling question. Would her ex-boyfriend know anyone who could kill Carol? It was the first direct evidence that Morgan had tried to arrange his wife's murder. For decades, this statement had been overlooked. Now it became the key that unlocked the case. In June, more than 40 years after Carol